All right, it's another edition of Behind the Blog. We went on a little hiatus, but we're back in action, and partly because there's a new story to tell at Barstool, and it is a big story, and it is one that I find to be very fascinating, one that I think needs to be told, and we're going to do our best effort here to tell the tale of Brandon fucking Walker.
It's been told a lot, but in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly what we're going to get into, but there's plenty of meat on the bone.
I want to get into all of it, man. I mean, the idea here is to kind of go behind the blog, and it's not just the jokes and the personas and everything we put forward on Barstool, but more about, you know, who you are, where you came from, how it all came to be, and where you're at now. So, I mean, I asked you to do this, maybe like a month or so ago?
About a month ago.
And that, at that point, I thought that there was an interesting story to tell about your, you know, how you made it here.
Right.
And then since then,
Keeps getting bigger.
I mean, if we waited another month, who knows? You could be in
Well,
Portnoy's office by the time that happens.
I didn't know the Penn deal was coming either.
Right.
And it came, and I just happened to be in an advantageous spot to be doing something in gambling, and that's a pretty good spot to be in.
I have said this so many times over the years, and a lot recently, that timing is everything. I believe that almost in general in life, but for Barstool Sports, the story of Barstool has always been timing, and for you right now, could not be better. With who you are, what you do, the gambling, and everything coming together, perfect storm.
Well, that's the crazy thing about me is everybody views me in terms of Barstool, which is understandable. I came into the Barstool universe in April, but when you say timing is everything, I mean, I was kicking around for 20 years.
Right.
Before anybody knew my name.
Right.
And finally, I just got lucky. That's what happened. I got lucky and caught a break. But once I got lucky, I said, well,
take it.
I'm not letting this get away.
So what? You were you come out of college and you're.
I was a small town newspaper guy for a while, and I rose up the ranks to newspaper leadership. My first job out of college, out of Mississippi State, was sports editor of a tiny newspaper in my hometown. In March 1st, 2004, I got that job. And I moved up. I got to New Orleans. I got to Florida, and up and up and up as a sports writer before I finally became the editor of a paper in Virginia, and then the editor of a paper in Atlanta, Georgia.
Are we talking like a major publication?
No,
or still
we're talking small town
Yeah,
newspapers. We're talking about 20,000 publication, Martinsville, Virginia, Cartersville, Georgia, in the Atlanta suburbs. Good living. Not breaking through to the mainstream at all. Just never really got my break there. I was a Mississippi State sports writer for a year, making 30 grand. This was in 2014, making 30 grand with 3 kids. You know, things weren't great. But
I don't care where you are, talk about cost of living or whatever. That ain't enough, brother.
I was working my butt off, though.
Yeah.
But I was working. And finally, what I thought my break was in 2016, I went to Atlanta, and I was working at a place called SEC Country, which is a website dedicated to SEC football and Big Ten football. We had a sister site, and everything was going well, and I was same kind of principle of Barstool. I kind of lucked into the opportunity, but I built myself up quickly, and then the company, the overarching company, Cox, shut the doors. And so I'm out in the cold, which eventually led me to picking up some podcasting jobs, some video jobs, led me to a company last year that I was working for, which led me to Dave Portnoy seeing that.
Is this the company we no longer speak
Correct.
of?
We don't speak of that company. I learned that today on radio. I said the name, and he looked at me. It was the sword of Damocles was hanging over me. He looked at me with eyes, and don't say that. So I am done saying that.
Understood. We will not mention the name. So when you're working at the newspapers, and I guess when you get to SEC Country, are you having a feeling of like, there's something bigger for me. I'm better than this. I need to, or are you just like, listen, this is who I am. This is what I'm going to be doing. And this is how I make my living.
I tell you what, who you surround yourself with in life is very key. And to me, I got lucky in that regard. Whenever I was doing things and I would get down on myself, my wife would always say, "You're better than this. You're bigger than this. It's going to happen. It's going to come." I didn't believe her, and I would get into the sense of, I'm working hard for my family, and I'm providing. And, I mean, you know what that's like, just providing. And that was enough for me. But I always thought I would look at guys who were at bigger spots and saying, I'm more charismatic, I'm funnier, I write better than he does. And it just never clicked. There was always that competitive nature in my mind, but at the same time, focus on what you're doing.
you'll hear that from a wife, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, a loved one, a mother, a father.
Right, but it's
and
just their
like,
job to say it.
Of course. So,
Yeah.
if whether or not you truly yourself believe that, I think is where it's nice to hear. And, but do I? And so you could feel it yourself. Like you were like, I know I'm better. I know I'm fine.
I could. I always felt like my career wasn't where it should have been. It was never about hard work. It was never about, the thing about it, in 2000 and where we are now, in journalism, it's not really about talent. It's about luck. It's about getting a break. It's about, because, journalism these days can be flighty. It can be up, it can be down. You never know what it's going to be. And it just never paid off for me until I caught the lucky break. I do want to say one thing about the lucky break I caught. It was very lucky I got the opportunity. What you do with the opportunity is not
Absolutely.
luck.
That's why
not luck.
I've always said, when I have a buddy whose father can get him in the door, or nepotism gets you an interview, or just flat out even gets you the job. Fuck yeah, take that. I mean,
right.
Yeah, I've heard stories of people being like, no, I wanted to do it on my own. Like, fuck that. From there on, do stuff on your own. But don't turn down an opportunity or think that you're better than that, or you need to work harder than that. Life is about luck and breaks and what you do with it. And I don't think, there are very few people that I've seen at our company so far who has taken their break and run with it quite as much as you.
Well, I think there's a ton of factors. Everybody's talented at Barstool. Not everybody has the desperation I had. I was 40 years old. I have 4 kids, and
hungry dogs run faster, man.
Hungry dogs run faster. That's exactly right. I didn't have a choice.
Right.
Like I didn't get out of bed one day and say, you know what, today I'm gonna become a national guy, and I'm gonna. No, when the door cracked open, I said, wife, let's get to New York and let's get in the door, because this is our chance. We got to make it, and we got to make it now.
And how was that received? Because that's, a huge move. 4 kids. Different. Let's be honest. It's like moving to a different country. From Mississippi to New Jersey.
The hardest thing about everything has been the transition from the South to New Jersey. I'm sure we'll get into that later. But my wife, when I told her I'm going to Barstool, on board 100%. She was like, finally somebody saw it. And I was like, thank you. And then a couple months later, when Dave laid the New York opportunity on the table, I went to her and I said, what do you think about moving to New York? And she looked at me and she said, how big could you become? That's the word she said. I said, hopefully pretty big. She said, well, let's go. That's what she said.
That's fucking great, man.
She didn't.
You need that.
She was ready to go. Whatever she needed to do to support me, she was going to do. And she was working. We were living off her salary last year.
Okay.
She was a Spanish professor at a community college in Mississippi.
¿Cómo estás?
I don't know what that means, but she was making a good living, and we were getting along. But she knew I was miserable,
right?
Because I was in a small town in Mississippi, not even my hometown, just another small town, and I just felt caged in and boxed in, and she knew that.
2 questions for you regarding that. 1, what if the answer was no?
If my wife had said no, I don't want to move to New York, I wouldn't have moved to New York.
Family first.
Yeah, that's my situation. There are a lot of people out there. Every individual is different. For me, I wouldn't have been able to do it.
Would there have been any sort of like, all right, I'm going to, I'll be up there like half the time?
I would have tried to negotiate a system with Dave where I, even if I had to pay out of my pocket, which I know he wouldn't allow, but I would try to set up a system where I could live in Mississippi but be in New York as often as possible.
Right.
But
Which we do. Chaps does
it. A lot
it.
of people
There's been
do it.
remote people, but there really is nothing quite like. You wouldn't be where you're at today if you weren't in the office every day, on radio every day.
He laid out, I had to be here every day. The college football show, which is every week, he didn't want to travel. He didn't want me traveling separate from everybody else. It was just going to be an expense that would have been hard. The daily show of Walk the Line wouldn't have been as good if I was doing it in a basement in Mississippi.
Right. Skype always loses a little luster,
And the college football podcast with Casey was on the table twice a week. I couldn't do that as well if I wasn't sitting beside her. So I just dove into it.
Second question, what if the tables were turned? You're writing your paper, you're doing SEC country, you're at that other company, whatever it may be. Your wife gets an opportunity to move. Would you have done the same thing she did for you?
So obviously the natural answer for any person who wants to appear to be good is, yeah, sure, I would have supported her. I don't know.
Right.
If she had said, I can go be a Spanish professor in Manhattan, well, we got to move to Jersey, I would have been like, whoa. First of all, I can get a job. I can figure out something down here. We can make the money. Don't worry about the money.
Right.
I would have put up a roadblock.
Right.
Now, I might have eventually done it, but we would have had to jump over every obstacle I would have put in her path.
Right.
She, no obstacle. She just opened the door and said,
It's
all right.
incredible.
And she emailed her boss the next day. It was like, peace out. We're going to go.
I mean, that level of support and vision.
It's abnormal.
Yeah.
And I recognize that.
That is, one of the things I've felt like watching this grow over the years is having a spouse or the family or friends around you who like support you through it. Because it's like, I mean, there's a lot of shitty elements to it. I mean, it's a lot of the bad side of fame and shit like that. It's
and
not
the time
great.
element.
Mm-hmm.
The time element is, I mean, you got 2 kids,
Mm-hmm.
and you know that with 2 kids the age of yours, being at home and being a parent is not a passive job.
No.
It is it's the quite opposite of it. So you got to do 10, 12 hours a day being, this guy.
Yes.
But then you got to be that guy for them.
Right.
So it's not easy.
No, I mean,
And if I didn't have somebody, I don't know if I could do it.
No. So you mentioned running with the opportunity.
Yeah.
And I feel like there was a moment for me, and I would imagine a lot of the audience as well, and perhaps your co-hosts and whatnot, where I wonder if I could pinpoint. I got to give it some thought and think about if there was a piece of content or a moment where I realized it. But it definitely started out as like, all right, this is like a joke. This is a stunt. And Dave has been known to do this, and he's brought in some people.
I know that.
And a lot of times those people are, don't do anything, and they're there to, we laugh with and sometimes at, and it's really it. So were you getting that vibe early on? People were not taking you seriously? Or
let's
people
lay it out on the table. I was hired as a stunt.
Right.
There's no, was it maybe a stunt?
No, that's definite.
That was a stunt.
Yeah.
That was
I mean, he knew nothing about you. It couldn't have been anything other than that.
That was just a play. He had the eyes of everybody looking on him. How funny would it be if I hired this guy from these people? And I remember the night, it was a Tuesday night, or it was a Tuesday afternoon when I went ahead and I did the show, and all the stoolies came and introduced themselves to me so very graciously, and I to them. And it was, we had kids softball that night. My 10-year-old had a softball game. I was coaching it.
Oh, Jesus.
And I was sitting, I went live at 5 o'clock, and at 6:30 I'm coaching. And I just remember being on that field and not really being on that field because of thinking, wow, there were like 1,000 people there today, and that shit got crazy. And then I
at that point, what was an average viewership for you like?
50.
And we're talking.
I was looking at 50, 75, and I went live, and there were 1,200 people.
Yeah, like
you know
what the fuck is this?
You know what? Actually, this is a side look into my brief ego, but I saw 1,200, and I was like, finally.
I did it.
Finally. Well, I built this show. It took 6 weeks, but here they are. But that night, I just couldn't. I just remember thinking, boy, they're going to be there again tomorrow. Am I going to have to go there again tomorrow? Because I don't want, when it happened, I didn't think.
Yeah.
I didn't have time to think. It
Right.
just happened. But then I was sitting there watching my girl play softball, and I'm thinking, am I going to have to go out in front of that executioner line tomorrow? And about 3 o'clock the next day, Dave blogged, I should hire this guy. And right after the blog hit, I got a DM from Dave, I want to hire you. And I said, okay, hire me. And that's where everything changed.
I remember the tweet from you. I now work for Barstool.
I now work for Barstool Sports, which is a complete, again, it's a stunt.
Yeah.
It's a joke.
Right.
Dave Portnoy, he gave me the offer, which is a standard offer that a lot of first-year talent receive. He told me that, and I knew in his head, I'll give him this year contract. In a year,
see you later.
See you later.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't know that when I got that year contract, I decided it ain't gonna be a year contract.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna make this I'm gonna make this guy.
No, say whatever you want.
I'm gonna make this motherfucker know that I'm coming.
Yeah.
And anything I can get my hands on, I'm gonna do. After he hired me, I worked for Barstool Sports. I went live. I did a walk the line, and it was received very, very well. And I think I coined Brandon fucking Walker in that walk the line. I said it, and about 3 hours later, I sat down on my computer and I emailed, okay, you hired me as a joke, but here's what you got. And I laid out.
Interesting.
I laid out what I could do. I laid out college football. I laid out gambling. I laid out 4 or 5 show ideas. And
so you basically had your job interview after getting the job.
Correct. And he emailed me back after that, and he just emailed, wow. That's all he emailed, which I imagine he was thinking, like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
But it was like, because it was a significant list of things I sent him back.
Well,
and then he was like, okay, we'll start working on some of this.
as a guy who has been around, conversing with Dave for, over a decade now, his email skills or demeanor over email he's very brief. He's very, quick. A lot of times people think he's angry or, a lot of times he is.
He says the one line he wants to say and that's it.
That's it. But like that wow
yeah.
is significant because even just getting him to respond sometimes was too much. And that wow, I would imagine, if I could interpret it, was something like, holy shit, this guy isn't a joke.
I thought it was, at the time I took it like, well, I shouldn't have sent all that much because I look like a try-hard. And he was going like, wow, okay, chill out.
No,
that's how I took it at the time.
No, I get that. But I think that, try hard is a term that of course I understand the meaning of it.
Yeah.
But when you look around the rest of the industry, some people don't fucking try hard.
If you hire a guy and he's a try-hard, that's a pretty good sign.
You want that.
Yeah.
You don't want try hard with humor. You don't want try hard with your personality, but with your work ethic, abso-fucking-lutely. Was there so you send that email, you start to do Walk the Line, you start to make appearances here and there.
Yeah.
Was there a turning point with you where you felt like, because at that point I'm sure the audience is still thinking like we're laughing at and not with.
Well, not just
or
the
whatever.
audience. Not just, I assumed. So what I assumed was people inside Barstool saw it as the same way.
Yes,
which I'm
we
sure
did.
that you
We
did. And my first goal was to lay out what I could do for Dave, what I could do as a personality. My second goal was to become a part of the company. So if you notice, you probably didn't notice, but I flew up to New York 3 times in April and May, and then the Duncan Awards were happening in early June, I believe. And it was just the people in New York. I asked them if I could pay my way. I wanted to come to the Duncan Awards to be a part of it and meet everybody, shake everybody's hand, and be part of the company. I had to get inside the fabric of Barstool, and I kind of went above and beyond to try to do that because it was win Dave, win Barstool, win the crowd. That's what I came up with.
Gladiator shit.
Yeah, and it worked. It somehow worked to a point.
Yeah, it clearly has worked. I know from my point of view, I thought it was a stunt. I thought it was a joke. Even a level of resentment of like, who could? Another person could have used that salary, or that could have been a bonus or a raise for this guy, and this is just going to be this one and done joke, and then all of a sudden you realize like, oh hell no.
But from your perspective and from everybody's perspective, when you're in Barstool and you're doing as many things as you do, you're doing as many things as you do. People get hired all the time. Somebody getting hired doesn't really make a big ripple in your world.
No.
It doesn't make a big. It's not until that person like keeps rippling that you notice them.
Right.
And that was what I was thinking.
Right. Yeah, and I don't think I can pinpoint. Sometimes there's like Marty Mush. I remember your esteemed colleague, your partner in crime at this point. He had a couple moments after he got hired with Barstool Idol that I was like, oh shit, that was funny. That wasn't just because he was similar to me. Like, all right, Dave knows gambling and I don't, so whatever.
Yeah.
But this guy, he's openly talking about how dumb he is and silly, and then all of a sudden the bird comes out and a couple funny things come out, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, there's something there now.
So Marty's a funny story too for me because the first person I met at Barstool, outside of talking on the phone to Big Cat and Dave, was Marty Mush. Marty Mush came down. It was the weekend of Talladega, and Dave was doing Talladega and getting into NASCAR. Marty Mush came down to Mississippi to watch a NASCAR race with me. We were going to live stream our watch. And after the race was over, I took him back in the woods. We rode four-wheelers, and we did all these things. He met my family.
Did the country life, huh?
Did the country life thing. And we spent about 8 hours together that day, and we both knew this doesn't make sense. A New York City kid, or a New York kid, a Mississippi guy, but something was there.
Yeah,
like
that's the magic.
His humor, my humor, it just worked. We had the same interest, and we knew immediately that's what kind of hooked me into Barstool. I now had something. I now had something to explore.
Yes.
Get there and do as much with Marty Mush as you can.
I think that we've found over the years that having like a buddy system at Barstool really works well.
Yeah.
Very, very hard. You have to be like extremely talented and have a very specific niche to do it solo. To not have someone to bounce off of and to grow those storylines and those inside jokes, almost impossible. So finding that second guy is key. And it's the odd couple, but in the same ways you guys are also perfect with the gambling and the sports and that being your passion. So it's the best of both worlds.
It's two brains in different bodies and circumstances that are wired very similarly.
Right.
But you wouldn't know it unless you got them together.
And what's interesting about that, I feel like Marty is coming from the exact opposite life situation as you.
100%.
No wife, no kids. I don't think any bills. I don't think any
doesn't pay rent.
worldly concerns, right? So ordinarily, the hungry dogs run faster thing is so obvious and so tangible. And I remember for myself, especially after going through all my personal shit, I stopped worrying about troll comments and people who didn't like my work.
Which has been a battle for me, yeah.
Has it been?
Yeah. But I don't want to cut you off.
No,
Please
but I mean, it just got to the point where it was like, I have such bigger concerns. I got to make as much fucking money as I can.
Yeah.
I know exactly what I am. I know exactly what I'm not. I have the self-awareness to know that. And so now it's about work. Whereas I think new hires, younger people without the same, factors making them, pushing them, are worried about their image or what do people like me and was that funny? And for you, it's like, I hope they like me, but I don't fucking care. I gotta work, I gotta make money, I gotta provide, and I gotta make sure this move was worth it.
So somebody like you, your niche is carved out. You've been doing it long enough. There's no surprises for you. You have the pitches you have. They're good pitches, and you go on the mound and you pitch all the time. Somebody like a Marty Mush has to get to Barstool and begin to dig and carve it out. Me, I couldn't use a shovel. I had to. I'm 40 years old. I ain't got a lot of time.
Right.
I don't have a lot of time.
Right.
So I had to get like a bulldozer to come in and just doze everything and then just start building from there.
Right. I mean that's not about
I don't have the
being
time.
cool or
you grew with Barstool.
Right.
And you became what you became. Barstool became what you became together.
Right.
I don't have that luxury. It wasn't a luxury.
But
you worked your ass off. You know what I'm saying?
But in a way, it's a essence of motivation that you can't fabricate. Like that was your driving factor, and you got kids to provide for, and so all the other shit is to the side.
But here's what I've learned about Barstool. People outside of Barstool who either love it or hate it believe that Barstool is this one thing, and it acts like this, it portrays this. No, Barstool isn't that. Barstool is real, which means whatever you really are, that's what you portray at Barstool. Whatever I really am, I portray at Barstool. I couldn't come in trying to act like you.
Right.
I would be fucking dead. I'd be
Right.
dead. It's real. They turn a camera on, they give you a blog, you be you, and as long as you're decently interesting, decently funny, decently talented, it'll work. The entire world is different than Barstool.
Right.
The entire world is structured and tells you where to be and what to do and where to stand and how to act. Barstool says, here's everything.
Go. Up to you.
It's up to you. I got that. I understood that. I said, you know what? I've been waiting to get a lot of shit out. Just give me a microphone and a camera. I'll go. But if you're hired from some other walk of life, it's hard to know. It's hard to be given complete freedom because it exists nowhere else.
Right.
And that's the essence of Barstool. If you can embrace complete freedom, you can.
Yeah, I feel like some people need structure. Some people need instruction. You are one of the guys who did not. Do you think that your experience at newspapers and everywhere else prepared you? Were you more prepared, less prepared? Was that because sometimes I think coming from a network or a place that's structured, you don't fit in well because you're like, wait a minute, why aren't you telling me what to do? Or was it like, hey, I finally got the freedom, I can fucking let it rip?
I think more prepared in the sense that newspapers are dying. They're a dying medium, and I was trying to scratch out a living in a dying medium, in a carcass. And I was trying.
And you know that, right?
I know that.
It's like
but
the
I've
guys
known
who
it
try
for
to deny
years.
that, it's like, come
but
on.
I've known it for years, and I could say, like in 2008, 2009, I started to look around, and I knew. I started. Even at the end of my newspaper tenure, I was doing podcasts on the side. I knew there were other avenues, and I was just aching for freedom. I was aching to not have a deadline at 5 o'clock, to not have to read these shitty stories from a guy who can't write, because you can't hire the creme de la creme anymore.
Right.
They don't exist for
they're
newspapers.
not even looking your way.
I knew freedom. I knew greater things existed. So once I got it, once I got to the greater thing, every frustration I'd ever had with newspapers was set loose, and I could just go. Yeah.
It's weird. It's like if you believe in fate and predestination or any of that shit, it was almost like everything was leading to this moment,
Right, but it sounds like that, and it's easy to look back and say that. But in the moment, I never.
No.
You don't see it.
No, of course
don't
not.
see it.
Yeah. So you're Brandon fucking Walker.
Brandon fucking Walker, yes. Can I tell you a story about that?
Yes, please.
I kind of lied to you. I said I coined it in that walk the line.
Yep.
I almost said it again.
Mm-hmm.
But in actuality, I coined it a long time ago. So when I was in college, I was working at Radio Shack, okay? I was working at Radio, talk about dying
industry, yeah.
So I was working at Radio Shack my way through college. I had 2 jobs. And in the daytime, I worked at Radio Shack. At night, I went and worked at Blockbuster Video. That's what I was doing.
Literally like the Grim Reaper. Everywhere you went, the industry's dead.
Just
Don't
done.
kill blogging, bro.
Yeah, so watch out, Barstool. Anyway, so I'm working there, and my name tag, I'm walking around, and I'm selling stuff, and the manager looks at me about my 3rd day of work and says, you're pretty good at this. I said, yeah, Brandon fucking Walker. And I changed my name tag to BFW, and that was my persona at Radio Shack. I was Brandon fucking Walker. Now, never to the customer, but behind the scenes, that's Brandon fucking Walker. And I got a newspaper, so I straightened up and I tightened up, and I was just Brandon Walker, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And something about when I was doing that stream, it just came out again. Brandon fucking Walker.
BFW, he was dormant in the back, just waiting to be unleashed again.
It was a dormant volcano, but it erupted that day, and the ash is still here.
I have had people ask me many times, what does KFC stand for?
I assumed it was the same thing.
Well, people had asked me, even friends of mine, they said, oh, it's Kevin fucking Clancy.
Right.
And I would always say, what kind of asshole? What kind of asshole would give themselves the middle name of fucking?
A tremendous asshole.
But that swagger and that ego a little bit, it goes a long way.
It does go a long way.
Is it a character? Are you trumping that up? Or are you, when you go home, are you like, I'm the cock of the walk, baby?
I mean, I am sure of myself.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen me walk. I don't believe I don't think I have an ego. It's a joke.
Dan calls you an egomaniac.
It's a joke. But
you think it's a joke?
He also says I'm very horny. He made that up, and that's stuck. He says a lot of things, and they just stick. Dan says things, they stick. But I really feel like I'm just a normal dude walking around.
Well, when you physically walk around,
I'm a big guy.
But you have this very slow. You take small steps.
Yeah, and head's always down too.
And it's like the Charlie Brown meme. And you would think that you're still like at the fucking newspaper or, you know, in a dying industry. You need to walk with some pep in your step, man.
I'm thinking, what the fuck am I going to do
next?
Yeah. I'm like, all right, that was a yak. I got to walk the line in 3 hours. What the fuck are we going to talk about today? That's what I'm doing. And but I'm a nice guy at the office, right?
Well,
oh shit.
I believe that leads us to what I would think is your most controversial moment yet. The Devlin push heard round the world.
I can't believe that I did this, and not once did I think that was going to come up. Not once did I come up with a game plan of what I was going to say when this came up. I remember. It's like I just remember.
I didn't think this was a gotcha moment,
I've
but
compartmentalized it enough to where it didn't really happen in my brain. All right.
So, I mean, we all know that story. If you don't know, to quickly sum up, you're doing a swipe up.
Yes.
You needed a couple takes. Devlin was like, I don't have time for this.
Yes.
Words were exchanged, and then the fateful phrase of moron from Mississippi gets uttered.
Fucking moron from Mississippi.
Hey, fuck you!
Fuck you too, Brandon!
You can't call me a moron from Mississippi? Yes.
And that clearly strikes a chord.
That bothered the fuck out of me, yes.
Clearly.
Now, before we dive into it, looking back, I was to blame for the fight. I was to blame for the push. Devlin was upset that I needed a couple takes. I was goofy in the first one. I took extreme offense at that. And
I think he could have handled it better too.
Sure, he could have.
Just to play the other
sure
side.
Could have. But I escalated it first. I was walking out of the room. I was like, he's being a bitch about this, and the bitch apparently is his word, and which is understandable. And then I walked down the hall, and he followed me, and then he uttered "moron from Mississippi," and that does bother me, Kevin, because me and Devlin are cool. We're great, actually. That was a one-time, 2 dudes get in an argument, and you shake hands after. It's done. So me and him are real good.
It's great about being a guy.
But hey, we're so stupid.
Yeah.
But I do take great pride in where I come from. I do love where I come from, and we do get this stigma of being uneducated and stupid. And when he said moron from Mississippi, I just blacked out because I'm not a moron.
No,
and I am from Mississippi, but I don't want. I was concerned when I came to New York that everybody's going to think I'm a, slack-jawed yokel.
Yeah.
But I'm not that.
Right.
I watch the same things you do. I read the same things you do. I do everything. Like, there's no difference. So, moron from Mississippi, took me to a bad spot immediately.
Would you say that that's your, your one thing? Your, being portrayed or viewed as the country hick is your
A little bit,
trigger.
Yeah. But it's not really. I've never gotten triggered by it before. It was just
Have
in
you
that,
ever really? I mean, have you always been down there though? I mean, have you ever been for prolonged amount of times up, kind of like a fish out of water?
I lived in Virginia. I lived in Atlanta.
Atlanta,
I
like
lived
in the city though.
I lived in I lived in Atlanta. I lived
Okay.
in Florida in cities. So I've been
Right.
in cities. I've never been out of the Southeast
Right.
For prolonged periods of time. But I'm well traveled. My wife speaks 4 languages. She's worked in Japan and Peru, and she's very, very educated herself. She has 2 doctorate degrees. So
It's like, don't fucking judge me, man. You don't
right,
know
correct.
Shit. Yeah.
That's what I felt judged.
Right.
I felt judged, and that.
And he was. I mean, and you
He
know
was.
what? I mean, I probably.
But he was saying something to get under my skin because I
Yes.
called him.
I was gonna say if I was gonna go at you,
Yeah.
that would be my angle too. Like you just some fucking hillbilly from the south.
Right, and I pushed him, and got close to getting fired. Really close.
What was it? I mean, was there?
I think I was close to
there,
getting fired.
I mean, I believe.
Dave said next time you do it, I'm firing you immediately. Well, I'm not going to do it again. But I think I was close.
Yeah, there's certain times where it's not a normal job, and there will
Yeah.
be confrontation and bullshitting, and you can say a lot more at a regular job and do a lot more. So when something like that happens, it's almost like when you're on like reality TV and it's like the challenge and it's like you can't push somebody, but we can, there's gonna be fights like that. And I remember I talked to Dave about it on the radio at one point. He was kind of like, he had to put his like boss hat on and be
Yeah.
like, well, wait a minute. I mean, I don't really care. I think everyone knows that like he's not like dangerous, but if you push someone in the workplace, it could result in firing.
So that's what it was like. The second I pushed him, like the veneer of Barstool went away, and I was suddenly in the real world.
You're like,
I
oh,
was in
fuck.
reality. I'm like, fuck.
Did you think in that moment like, all right, I'm done?
I didn't have time. Dan grabbed me and walked me into Big Cat grabbed me and walked me into the Walk the Line studio, which
Uh-huh.
I had a show 15 minutes later.
Right.
15 minutes. That's how this company gets you.
Yeah.
I had a show 15 minutes
No
later.
rest for the weary,
And Dan's
man.
like, you're not getting fired. You're not getting fired. I don't know if he knew that to be true.
I don't know. He couldn't have.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
it-
he walked me through it.
Yeah.
And he calmed me down. He got me out to radio, and Big Cat walked me around until I was okay.
That, I mean, I didn't think you were gonna get fired, but had you, it
You
would
would've
have
been
been like,
shocked.
okay. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I think everyone, especially in our like romper room funhouse world, deserves one pass.
Yeah, and I
like
know
that.
I don't. Devlin certainly wouldn't have been comfortable with me getting fired. I don't believe.
And the real thing is, I don't think anybody believes that it was like gonna happen again. If you were like a
Yeah.
rageaholic,
Yeah.
walking around the place always ready to burn it down, and then you did that, I'd be like, all right, this guy, he's
Right.
got like anger issues or something. It was, like you described, 2
Yeah.
guys, one time, whatever.
It happened. We shook hands, and we've been cool ever since.
What was the reaction at home to that? Or did it even, like, will your family, do they keep up with things? Are they going to know if
No,
you
but
had
I
a big
told
day
her.
at work?
I told her. I called her. I told her, and her reaction. I mean, she asked if she was like, "I'll drive up there and beat the fuck out of him." So that's
Mrs. fucking
my
Walker.
wife was ready to fight.
Yeah.
So
I mean, again, that in how you described her earlier, it's no
yeah,
surprise.
Yeah, she was ready, and she said, "If they fire you, we'll go back home. You'll be okay." And I was like, "All right, just relax." And I ended up calming her down.
Right.
So, yeah, but it's an embarrassing event, but it's also this is odd to say, but it's in the annals of Barstool history.
Oh,
now.
no doubt. I mean,
So-
you never want to.
Everything that happens negative can be a positive at this place, especially.
The beauty of Barstool, man. What's the perception of Dad as Brandon fucking Walker?
The only ones, so I have an 11-year-old girl,
Uh-huh.
and she's been at school, and like some of the gym teachers have said, "Is that your dad?"
Uh-huh.
And she knows, and
It's still young enough that
she's young enough, but my 9-year-old is completely taken by it. That's Thomas Brandon Walker Jr. He is, and he's talked to me and said, "Dad, it's time to start my podcast. When are you going to start my video show?" He's been on, when I had the Mississippi State stuff, he would actually come on, he would sit with me, and he would do it. And the people that I would interact with would say, "Hey, where's Tommy?" and everything. And he thinks he's going to be the next me, which is not a bad.
I don't see why
thing.
he won't be.
Well, I don't know if I need to unleash him on the world. He's got some ideas. He's got
Is he
some
the one who
ideas
said
that
he
are out
beat up
there.
K. Marco?
He's the one that beat up K. Marco. My 9-year-old is the most fascinating human being on earth. My 9-year-old, about 6 months ago, walked up to me. I was laying on the couch, and he said, "Dad, why did President Nixon take us off the gold standard anyway?" And I
What the
in my mind, I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And he said, "Why did he take us off the gold standard?" And I didn't even know.
I didn't know. I mean,
So
I
I
didn't
was
know
like-
that was Nixon. I don't
So,
know. You know.
well, I was like, oh, hold on. And I went to the bathroom and I Googled it. And in
needs a
1971, he
moment.
did in fact take us off the gold standard. I was like, I don't know. Where'd you get that?
Wow.
He said, I was just thinking about it. So, I,
Maybe he does need a podcast. Maybe
if-
his questions are
I'm
valid.
telling
When-
the second he gets in, I'm done. I'm done because he will replace me immediately.
Thomas Brandon Walker Jr.
Yep.
How have they transitioned up to
Yeah,
New
it
York?
hasn't been great.
Like, because there's, as Brandon Walker, the employee,
Yeah.
things are going great.
Things are going very
Brandon
good.
Walker, the father, husband, just family man.
Things have been a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, the real life. When we came up here, my kids, my wife, my dog died.
Yeah.
So that's immediately that's a big event in a kid's
Yeah.
life. And schools haven't been all that smooth. They talk different than everybody else, and they're nervous that they're looked at as dumb and everything. So I told them, listen, you guys are smart as hell. Don't even worry about it. And I don't know. It hasn't been 100% smooth.
No, I mean, I feel like any move is going to be tough at that age.
It's an
tough.
absolute
Culture change, no doubt.
It's a huge culture change.
But I would say as they maybe get a little bit older,
I think they'll be better for it.
And when the rest of the class knows what Barstool is and knows that their dad is out and about and doing cool shit, it
See,
becomes.
I didn't even think of that.
Oh, listen, I don't even know at what age kids, maybe 11-year-olds are on Barstool.
I'm thinking
for all I fucking know.
when a boy gets to middle school, he becomes aware.
Yeah.
Middle school and high school especially, they become
And
aware.
when that
of what-
happens,
Yeah.
oh, forget it. They're gonna love being.
I didn't think of that. So, yeah, I just
oh,
gotta wait 'em
they're
out.
You're gonna be a celebrity to those kids. You know what I mean?
Well, I like to think
You
I
see
am.
Brandon Walker at your basketball game, at your softball game, at the dance, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Oh, those kids are gonna be like the most popular kids in school.
Be careful, he might push you.
So I feel like Miami was not a turning point, but just another inflection point to the fucking moon.
A fortification, yeah.
That Mark Cuban moment, and credit to you for keeping it moving, but I could even hear in your voice like, that was Mark fucking Cuban, guys. What's going on here?
So, you have probably had dozens, maybe hundreds of, is this real life moments?
Yeah.
I'm certain you've interviewed people, or you've seen people, or you've talked to people. I've been so, I don't say insulated, but I've just been nose to the grindstone. And when you go out to Miami, you see stoolies and you see people, and you get used to seeing somebody say, "Hey, Brandon fucking Walker. Hey, what's up, buddy?"
Mm-hmm.
But I'm walking out of that restaurant, and I walk past Mark Cuban, and I hear a kid say, "Brandon fucking Walker." And I turn around, and when I turn around, my eyes go past the kid, and I see Mark Cuban. And it's not like he's not famous. He's on
No.
Shark Tank.
Billionaire. I mean, he's involved in sports. He's on TV. It's
There-
not like he's some,
There are sports owners that could quietly walk down that street.
99% of them.
But Mark Cuban's not one of them.
He's like the one.
And so Mark Cuban's walking, and he waves at me, and I wave at him, and the kid says, "Can I get a picture?" And I look up, and he's walking towards me. I said,
I'll hold the camera for you and Mark.
You want,
wait.
You want a picture of me? Mark Cuban's over there. Kid doesn't give a fuck about Mark Cuban.
He didn't even flinch.
Didn't look at him.
It wasn't like he didn't realize and goes, "Oh yeah, you're right."
Yeah.
He knew it. Was like, whatever, don't care.
That was certainly a moment. Like 9 months ago, you were standing on a softball field in Fulton, Mississippi,
Yeah.
trying to get the respect of 10-year-old girls, and now you're dominating Mark Cuban's ass on South Beach.
Wild.
We were in Miami.
Yeah.
It's like just being in Miami is a thing.
Right.
So you mentioned that I just kept it moving, and I kept it going despite Mark Cuban. The only reason I kept it going was I had to go get the fucking ice cream. I was walking to get ice cream for Dan and Chad Johnson and all
Yeah.
these people. And if you weren't watching that day, we were doing the Yak live at Tequila Chica's, and ice cream had come up.
He's a block away with your headset.
And I was sent to get Haagen-Dazs. And Mark
unbelievable.
Cuban can wait. I got to go get the Haagen-Dazs. So, and I got it. It was delicious.
I mean, the man he's on a mission.
Yeah.
Do you think your upbringing prepared you for this? Were you as you you played sports growing up? You
I did.
were
That's
involved
a
in a team element.
that's a more
do you think
difficult.
any of this kind of was already in your DNA?
So what's in my DNA, I believe, is this is going to sound funny, but I was an only child till I was 16. My sister, who I have one, is 16 years younger than me.
Wow.
So I was raised by myself. And when I say by myself, Kevin, I was raised by my fucking self. We didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have any money. And my mom would go to work all day, and like at 6 years old, I'm at home by myself. She would make them.
6 years old, solo at home?
Yeah, but we lived in Mississippi. We lived in the country. We lived a mile from anybody else. And my grandfather lived down the road, and he'd always come check on me. But I was, 6, 8 years old, she'd make a pot of hamburger and help her, and I'd come back and I'd eat, and I'd go fishing. So I was very self-starting early.
Yeah.
And that is what Barstool rewards more than anything, is being a self-starter.
Huge.
So when you talk about, did anything in my childhood prepare me for this, just the initiative to have to do it by yourself is what helped me at Barstool.
So we're talking back to 6 years old, whether or not you realize
well,
it.
We're talking about living a life that required, that required you to be self-sufficient.
Make it yourself, yeah. So you get a little older, you playing ball? When I asked you where should we do this, I thought response was going to be 100% a football field. Now, I don't know if that's because it's the winter and whatnot, or what you said, let's go find a basketball court. Is hoops actually your forte?
I played 2 years. Well, I played 1 year of JUCO basketball.
Okay.
At Last Chance U. If you've ever seen Last Chance U on Netflix, it's East Mississippi Community College in Scuba. Nothing's there, Scuba, Mississippi. And I didn't even play. I broke my foot second week of practice, so I didn't really play, but I was on the team. So yeah, I'm a basketball guy. I have a basketball background. But I love football the most.
I picture you as like the big fundamental.
Yeah, you actually have that wrong. So
are you the flashy guy? Or
I was
are
the
you
flashy
the and one?
When I was 17 years old, I was the same height, 6'5", but I was 180. I was skinny as a rail. I could jump. I mean, I could do a 360 dunk. I could do every dunk you could imagine. I can't do it now, but back then I was a runner. I was a jumper. I was a shooter. I played guard. I didn't play center. I played shooting guard.
Right.
So that was what you see now belies what I actually played like.
Brandon dunk contest walker over
1997 dunk contest, West Point High School. Yep.
You won it?
I did. My winning dunk was, I stood with my back. I was at the free throw line. I stood with my back to the basket. I bounced it between my legs off the backboard and dunked it. It was a Kenny Smith dunk from the 1990 slam dunk contest, if you remember that.
Look at you.
Yeah. It's not a hard dunk. It looks impressive, but it's not hard.
Well,
the throw's the hardest part.
Yeah. Is there any like raw footage of back in the day?
I have. If I can find a VHS tape that was in my mom's house.
It. Like he's not sitting at home
it's
watching it every
house.
night. Yeah, right.
I have the VHS actually has the 2000 Royal Rumble, and at the end, I recorded myself dunking a basketball.
If there's Brandon Walker dunk highlights, you'll bring the fucking house down, man.
If I can find that tape, I think on that tape, I did a one-handed dunk, a two-handed dunk, a reverse dunk, a 360 dunk, and an off-the-backboard dunk.
Can you still dunk?
No.
I feel like when I think of you and your brand, on top of the charisma.
Which is crazy to think.
Brand?
Brandon.
Yes. The brand of
I've never
Brandon.
Really thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, you got to at this. Now it's time. On top of the charisma, the personality, the ego, everything that I think of with your brand, I think of just sheer sports knowledge.
Yeah, and that's something that I would love that to be like at the forefront.
Yeah.
Because that and my mom, who raised me pretty much by herself, always bought me sports books and sports videos, and she always had me reading. I knew the top 10 home run hitters in 1989 when I was 10 years old. I can recite them. She instilled upon me reading and educating yourself on sports, and I loved it so much. So that's a big deal to me.
4 players.
Oh, wow. So if I get this wrong.
I think you'll get these. 4 players who hit 50 home runs and won a World Series in the same year.
Mickey Mantle. Roger Maris.
2.
So Ted Williams never won one. He also never hit 50, so I don't know why I brought him up. Babe Ruth.
3.
And
can he get the 4th? Can he get it, folks?
Is it in the Babe Ruth era?
No, it is in the modern era.
So it's not Jimmy Fox. Okay. It's not George Foster at 52. No, I got it. Happened in 2001 against the Yankees.
knows it.
This was the biggest roid guy ever, Luis
Ever.
Gonzalez.
Got it. Got it.
Yep.
And that's right there. That's the brain of Brandon Walker. Thinks through it, figures it out. I just picture Brandon Walker sitting on a log somewhere in Mississippi as a 10-year-old boy, reading a sports almanac, thinking about these things, and he's still got it to this day.
Still have those books, too.
He's
Yep.
got it.
Still got those books.
It's Brandon fucking Walker. It's Walk the Line. It's college football. Who knows what's next? It's to the goddamn moon.
To the moon.
Any
Yep.
last words for the people, Brandon?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to talk like this. We don't. This sounds crazy. We don't often get to actually just talk like this.
I know.
And that's why
That's the
this is
beauty
a
of
great
this series, yeah.
I liked it. I appreciate
The
that.
man behind the blog, even better than the man in front of the camera.
It's Behind the Blog, the deep dive, sit-down conversations with your favorite personalities from Barstool Sports. Who they are, where they came from, where they were raised, and how they ended up at Barstool Sports. It's like sitting down with your best buds and having a deep dive, long conversation about your views on life. So hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon, and leave a comment below. Which interviews did you like the most, and which Barstool personalities do you want to see sit down with me?